wonderful to have you here and so excited. For everyone already listening to this, you might realize that this is now an English version of the interview and the insights of Nathalie for balanceUP. We're so excited to have you here. You are the co-founder and CEO of MyExpat Texas, and you have a wonderful story to tell. So for all of our viewers and our readers in the balanceUP community, can you share a little bit about yourself and also your entrepreneurial USP and what you do, Nat?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Nathalie. I'm from San Jose, California, hence the English. I relocated in Vienna in 2015. Husband is Austrian. Technically, we are not actually in Vienna anymore. I live in Niederösterreich, right? But, you know, I'm definitely going to be a lifer. So planning to live the rest of my life in Austria. And yeah, basically when I moved here, I realized as an American, I still have to file American taxes along with Austrian taxes. And there was no good software system for American US expat taxes. Hence MyExpat Taxes was born. So we started in 2018. Now we are already the leading US expat tax software program out there. We service thousands of US expats living in every single corner of the globe with their US tax returns online. And we have grown really a lot in the past few short years. And essentially, you know, any American living abroad, if they have any US tax problems, they can just go to our website and we will make their US expat tax filing so simple and affordable that, you know, it will no longer be a hassle or a burden for them.
That's wonderful. And I remember the last time we were actually meeting in person, or one of the last times we were both at the Female Future Festival. Yeah. And at that time we were talking about having a family in the future and what that would mean also for your business, because I believe my son was a few weeks old at that time. And yeah. And now we're sitting here, Nat, and you actually are a mom now.
Yes, crazy. You know, I could have, maybe I was already pregnant when I was telling you. I didn't know yet at the time, right? Because I think I didn't take the test until a few weeks afterwards. But obviously, once you take the test, you're already a few weeks there. So probably I was pregnant already. Yeah, little Emma just turned 1 on Monday. So it's been kind of crazy, right? Because I no longer have a baby. I have a toddler, right? So it's pretty wild, but it's been interesting. I mean, obviously everyone, when they have a baby, they plan to take some time off from work because it's wild, right? Those first few months are just wild, especially with the first one. And Emma was my first one. And that's not really what happened so much for me, right? I gave birth and then I pretty much had to jump right back into my laptop 2 days later because we were just growing rapidly at that point. So, you know, I had planned to give birth pretty much after the US expat tax deadline of June 15. But because of COVID and everything, the IRS actually shifted the date to July 15th. So I had given birth, and on top of that, I gave birth earlier. So Emma was planned for July 1st. She came on June 21st. So she was a bit earlier and she was right in the middle of the tax deadlines. So that was pretty intense. So definitely I had to keep my laptop on and working, but I survived and it worked. And I found a lot of tips and tricks that helped me, you know, I think in the beginning. So anyways, I'm sure you'll ask me about that. So I'll kind of have those tips and tricks.
This is perfect. The perfect segue. And please, you know, we at balanceUP, it's all about, we call it Vereinbarkeit. Now knowing, I don't know if you know, I haven't found the perfect English word for Vereinbarkeit. I usually say it's balancing entrepreneurship and family life. Hence that's why our company is called balanceUP. Yeah. But yeah, please tell us more, share tips and tricks, and also tell us, what does that mean for you combining that? Now, actually having founded a startup, it's even more intense than for other entrepreneurs, but please, any insights you can share, Nat, it would be wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the very beginning, so before even Emma came, you know, it was really important to tell my co-founders, who are all male, but at the same time, you know, one of them actually just had a baby in the year before, right? And we're very family focused in our whole company. with that being said, I think a lot of the new hires I have, half of them are all new moms as well. But, you know, it was really important to set the boundaries with my co-founders and set the expectations of what happens if I have a hard birth, what happens if the first few months are too hard for me to get on, right? So it was always leading up to it to have the expectation that you would not hear from me for 6 months, just in case. And then if I could log on, I would do whatever I could, but without the pressure of having to be there. So set expectations, don't overpromise. I never promised that I would be working from day one. I said, I will see how it goes. Expect that you will not hear from me in the worst case, right? So, you know, I think it's easy, especially before the first one, to think, okay, when I have a child, when I give birth, like I'm different. I'm going to be able to work right away afterwards. And yeah, it may very well be, but you cannot control how the birth goes. You cannot control how much your baby cries, right? What problems they may have, right? In case they have colic or, you know, sleeping issues or health issues, you know, hopefully not. But these are things you cannot control. So to not stress out before, don't overpromise. Number one, just, you know, expect that you won't be there. And then as the time goes on, you know, I obviously Emma, I think with every other baby, cried a lot. It's not always easy, but they also sleep a lot. And so, you know, honestly, you should try to rest in that time. But I did sacrifice my own sleep to work, which in the end it worked out, right? Because I have the energy to do so. I don't recommend it, obviously. I highly recommend everyone just take the first few months off to just really, you know, recover. But you know, basically for me, it was if Emma was sleeping, she was usually sleeping on me. I had my laptop. I worked. There's so many pictures of Emma just passed out on me, right? And my laptop right there. And so, you know, I did whatever I could, and I would work in 1 to 2 hour sprints, right? Whenever Emma slept, if she slept for an hour, I would work for an hour. The minute she woke up, I shut off my laptop. And it was just working when she was sleeping, but the minute Emma was awake and she needed me, I was there so that I didn't feel guilty about also not being there. But obviously when they're sleeping, it's like, you know, I'm still their pillow, I'm still there. But I think that was pretty much the beginning and going with the flow. So there is no set work schedule. It's whenever baby passes out, open my laptop, right? Keep my laptop nearby if I know she's going to sleep soon. And, you know, feeling good about if I only work 10 minutes that day, feeling good that I did it, right? You know, that not feeling bad that I didn't work 3 hours, but feeling proud that I was able to work 10 minutes. So easier said than done. I think that's the main thing. So just don't overpromise. Whatever you can do, be proud about it, and take advantage of the nap times, because they do nap a lot in the beginning. They don't nap that much later on.
I think these are already wonderful tips, Nathalie, Nat, and you actually already said it. The year 2020 was a special year on what we had to encounter. And now the year 2021 is even more special to a certain regard, because we're still facing that dilemma, but there's a lot of Aufbruch and Umbruchstimmung, especially in Austria, happening. There's now new initiatives coming up, new things happening. How did that time, especially you already worked in the online world before with MyExpat taxes and in the software business, but is there any insights that you can share from this time also through that?
Yeah, it was better for us. So I think I really took advantage of the fact that my husband was also working from home. And that's super important, because obviously, you know, there's Papa Mona and they're home for the first month, which is great. So that helped me out a lot. But because he could work from home, I took full advantage of that, right? So if I had to do something urgent for work, it's, can you hold the baby for a little bit, right? And just really having kind of that partnership. I know not everyone's that lucky to have both parents at home, and definitely I feel like I live in an exception that, you know, I have an online business, I can work completely remotely, and so can my spouse. But I think, you know, if you do have that opportunity, take advantage of it, right? Otherwise, also having a good support system. So obviously that's super tough during these times, and especially in the beginning when we were very unsure about the pandemic and there were no vaccinations. But one thing that also helped out for me, which I did plan a lot before pandemic ever started, right? We always said that we want to live close to family. So when we did start a family, we had help. And I actually live across the street from my parents-in-law, and I took full advantage of that, right? So that is something that if you're planning that, don't take for granted how important that is, that you have a support network out there, right? Whether it's them helping you with groceries or, supplying dinner or lunch or taking baby for, 1 or 2 hours a day, which 1 or 2 hours a day it's amazing, right? I think just having that set up, and obviously do it in your quarantine bubble, but we're now heading kind of out of the pandemic, I guess, hopefully. But I think those were kind of the main tips. And again, just letting the team know, setting expectations that for me, it's easier said than I think for an employee, but as, one of the founders and the CEO, it's very easy for me to tell my team, if I show up to a meeting, I may be holding my baby, and that's totally fine. And everyone has to accept that. Obviously, again, easier said when you're one of the leaders versus an employee, but I think that's kind of what helped during these Corona times.
But one thing you bring out here is that you're also an amazing role model for others, right? So when you see your company is really focused on family, it's also an opportunity for others. And you just said you hired a lot of new moms that can then see, oh, wow, this is what Nathalie is doing. That means, once I maybe come into that age and I want to have family, this is an opportunity, and I can continue, working. I can continue having a career. I can continue having my business and having a family.
Yeah, I would hope so. And I think when I interviewed people, right, and maybe I always wonder if I never really sought out to hire a bunch of other women or, kind of put it that way, but maybe it's because I am a woman, I attract others, and that's just the way it works, which I'm very happy with, of course. But I remember interviewing other women, and, at some point in the interview, they would come like, I am, 4 months pregnant, 5 months pregnant, I will give birth soon, this is impacted, or I just had a baby. And I was like, oh, that's fine. Like, if you want to work, you can work. We're very flexible here. And that's the main thing is, like, especially as an employer, I think mothers or working parents are super productive, right? I really think that when it comes to high productivity, that comes from parents, because they know if they got an hour, that might be the only hour they have. So they're going to definitely cram out everything they can in that hour. And so with that, I'm very happy to be flexible, right? Work whenever you want. If baby needs you, baby needs you. If something's urgent, I'll call you. If I don't call you, it's not urgent, right? Your family is the most important thing. So that's always the most urgent. And you work whenever you want. If you're working, in the middle of the night because baby woke up and you can't go back to sleep, that's also fine. I did that a lot in the beginning, right? When Emma would wake me up at 2, 3 a.m., sometimes I'd put her back to bed. I'd go down to the office and work for 1 or 2 hours because I literally just couldn't go back to sleep, or I was hungry, right? Most of the time I was hungry. But, just also telling our team that that's also okay to be flexible, take care of your family first, and whenever you can log on, and obviously get your work done, right? Don't let things pile up. But I've never had a problem to this day of anyone focusing too much on their family and not getting enough work done. I don't think that's a thing that really happens. I think people that are working parents are very thankful for that opportunity to be flexible. And so they really give you their 200, 300%.
I think that's very true. And I think some wonderful tips here already. One additional thing I wanted to ask you about, because at balanceUP, we have all these different personas, and now we're launching the persona of Sarah, and it's a perfect fit for you, actually, Nat, because it's the persona that actually has a business, has a startup, is an entrepreneur, and then the family comes in, which is sometimes different to the people that actually, and there's a lot of them, have a baby and then decide to become entrepreneurs. So with that in mind, is there any special tips that, you already shared some at the beginning, especially about the support network and about not to overestimate and rely on your expectation. But is there anything in regards to really that mindset where you have your business and then the family comes on top?
Yeah, I think the main thing for me was I still have to carry the business, right? You still got to do it. And it's kind of understanding how to balance it, so to say.
Yay!
How to balance it. But that also means how to say no. And that is probably the most important. So when you have a company, you barely have enough time because you're always working. Then you have a baby and you barely have enough time because I don't need to explain why, right? There's a million things you have to do. And so whatever time you do have is so valuable. So especially in that first 6 months, I would say, or basically 8 months until they can really sit up and kind of be a little bit more independent on that, on their own. Say no. Say no to anything that is not relevant. If it is not completely urgent for your company, say no. If some external person, wants to have like a meeting or something, or they want to propose some different project, but it's not immediately necessary, say no, or ask someone else to take the meeting. There were a lot of important meetings, so to say, when regarding financing or external stakeholders. I asked my co-founders to take that. Even though normally I would be in the call too, I had to delegate to say, not even delegate, I just had to say, I can't do this. You have to take the lead on this. So saying no to anything that's not necessary, trying to say no to external meetings, because internal meetings are fine. You can bring your baby along. External meetings are a bit harder. You can't really do that. So trying to limit kind of those meetings and just focus on what is absolutely necessary to keep the wheels running. Because it will come again that you have more time. I mean, slowly and slowly, I just realized that now I have a lot more time than I used to have.
You can give an interview to balance up.
Yeah. If you had asked me 6 months ago, I would have said no. So, but that's the thing, is just for those that already have a company and then you start a family, your time is so precious. Don't try to do everything. Just focus on what only you can do in your company, so that your team needs you there, and anything else that your team can do on their own, let them do it, right? Trust them in that. And I think that is very important, especially for someone that is kind of the leader of the company, or one of the main people. Learn to trust your team to do things so that you can limit yourself and just do what no one else can do that you can do, right? I hope that was a good answer, but I think that's the main one.
I think wonderful tips included, Nat, really wonderful. My last question to you is, maybe, do you have any wishes for the future? And this could be for you personally, but also maybe in terms of the situation. Now, you as an American come with a different background on what it means to have a family in Austria. Do you have any wishes on things that should change here? Anything that you can give also to our community as wishes for the future?
There's not too much I would change, because I think Austria's system is so much better than the US. I mean, there's actually, Karenz versus the US, there's no such thing, so to say, at least at a federal level. I guess, as always, the change is probably people are just more open and understanding. I mean, I actually still don't really tell people that I have a baby. Like, I usually kind of save it for later, especially in the beginning months. I didn't tell anybody, right? Which was easy with the pandemic, because all video calls are only this high, right? So no one ever saw my pregnant belly or anything like that. Now I'm a lot more open, because obviously I'm past 1 year, and, no one can say that, oh, your baby will impact your work anymore, because, okay, it's 1 year old already. But I guess just overall more people talking about it, more people accepting it, more people just kind of saying, yeah, like, we need a flexible work schedule. I think not all companies are like mine, where you can work whenever you can, right? Most companies are, you need to be in your desk from 9 to 5. We have to see your face, even though literally your face is just glued to a computer screen and you don't actually have to interact with anyone in person. So I think at least Corona has pushed us to adopt that more. So that's good for families. Otherwise, yeah, I think Austria's pretty well set up in terms of that. I mean, obviously more female founders will help, but that comes with time.
And I think you had a wonderful statement, more talking about it and more sharing and more going out there and saying, yes, it is possible. And as you mentioned, Nathalie, I think you are also a great role model in that regard and showing, yes, it is possible. And even though you maybe didn't share it in the beginning, in the first year, now you are there and going out. And thank you in that regard for being part of the balanceUP community and for sharing that, even with a startup and a company in the back, just recently founded, like you shared, then having family life, it is possible. Thank you for sharing those insights and all your great tips with us today.
Of course.
To our international version, first in English.
You can have German subtitles underneath, if anything.
Look forward to the feedback from the viewers. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.